much of an escalation is this in terms of the concerns around the safety of Boeing planes?
Sarah, I'd say about half of the article is really damaging from the standpoint of raising questions about whether or not they're rushing production, leaving tools in planes when clearly they should be taken out of planes. They could cause a flight risk. Also, there were some metal shavings with certain parts that potentially could cause an in-flight emergency. Those kind of revelations are the ones that people will look at and they say, is Boeing rushing production? Are they really guilty of that, which goes back to the 737 MAX? The other allegations in terms of, look, they were hard on the workforce and they wanted a unionized workforce, and if we weren't unionized, they were coming down on us. We and others have reported on that since the day that they said we were going to be building a plant in North Charleston, South Carolina, because it's not a union area, and that they were trying to move away and diversify from the unionized workforce up in the Puget Sound area. A lot of those allegations, I think people read those and they said, we've heard this before, we know that story. Doesn't mean that those aren't valid concerns of the workers down there, but it's not new issues that have been brought to light.
Phil, to the first half that you mentioned of the article, we did see an internal memo from Brad Zabak, a Boeing VP, where he pushed back against this article, in which he said, this story does not define us. Our company and our customers recognize the talent, skill, dedication, excellence, etc. at Boeing. Is that still true? Do the customers in particular still rate Boeing as highly as they did 6 months ago?
I think overall customers do rate Boeing highly. In fact, you can see that when you talk with executives at airlines about the 737 MAX issue. They believe that Boeing will figure this out. They still believe in the aircraft overall, and that once these problems are figured out, they're approved, and then the grounding is lifted by the FAA and other regulatory agencies, I think airlines will be comfortable once they make the changes flying that plane again, and they're comfortable with other Boeing aircraft. That said, it doesn't mean that these allegations that are brought up in this article are not concerning if you are a Boeing investor or for airlines. And while they may come out and say, yeah, we believe in Boeing 100%, behind the scenes, there certainly are discussions between airlines and Boeing in terms of the quality of some of the aircraft that are being built there. Doesn't mean they won't fly them, but this is natural between the airlines and Boeing, and by the way, airlines and Airbus as well.
So Sheila, as an analyst who covers Boeing and has covered throughout this whole grounding of the 737 MAX, how do you read an article like this in terms of implications for investors?
Sure. So it's hard for me to verify what 1 or 2 employees of Boeing say. They have 153,000 employees. You know, some facts on the 787, which is what the article is essentially defaming, is there's been 1,400 ordered. There's 73 different customers of the Boeing 787, and 40 of them or so have come back to reorder the aircraft. And Boeing is slated to go up in production on that aircraft from 12 per month to 14 a month in the first half of this year. So from a customer perspective, it's been very supportive of the 787, which the article is saying there's bad practices with that aircraft.
How much have you had to reduce your earnings expectations for the 737 MAX in recent weeks and months? And are you expecting to have to do that for any of the other aircraft, whether it's the 787 or anything else?
So we don't expect it for any of the other aircraft. What we have done with March deliveries that came out is we've reduced our 737 forecast for the grounding. We've taken a stab at it. We've said essentially it's a 6-month production halt. So you're not delivering those aircraft. So we've taken a cut. But Boeing is slated to report Wednesday. We probably think the company is likely to remove guidance. That way you're not front-running regulators and you're kind of leaving a blank slate out there for everybody.
How much of this uncertainty that's all out there is already in the stock?
I think some of the uncertainty is there in that the company has given back what it's done with its execution, in that it started to trade at a bit less of a discount, so a 20% discount to the market rather than the 30 it's had for some time. So it's gone back into the penalty box, and it'll take some time to get back out there again.
In terms of the questions out there, not about Boeing, but about whether the FAA had perhaps been lenient or lax or whatever the accusation might be, would they have applied that also to Airbus as well when reviewing those planes? Is it something that could apply to both sets?
So I asked Textron's CEO this question last week, in that they're expecting their business jet to get certified, the Longitude. That's expected to be certified this year in the first half as well. And I think, you know, the FAA has gone through very extensive processes. I think the aircraft industry, aerospace, is generally very safe. So I think in general, the industry doesn't want a knee-jerk reaction to what the FAA does and implements additional legislation or whatever it might be.
Do you expect this episode, the crashes, the grounding of the flights, and now articles like this, to impact Boeing's ultimate relationship with the FAA and other regulators around the world?
I think it's a good relationship in general, but it'll take some time for, the public perception to be better, and that's one of the issues, perhaps.
Do you and the analyst community still back the current management team at Boeing?
Yeah, we do. I think there's no change in that whatsoever. I think this is a transitory issue. It's very unfortunate. I think the grounding will be lifted. Boeing is still working on a software fix. There's no change, no difference there.
So are you telling people to buy the stock on days like this when we get
We like it because we think longer term it has significant upside. These issues will be transitory in 2019, and the goal is to have 2020 intact.
Okay.